Hi, Santiago. How are you?
Hi Arturo, I'm doing fine, and you?
Santiago, great to see you.
Also great to see you, Alfredo. How are you today?
Doing great, thanks.
Great that we are reconnecting. So just kind of a way, as a way of an introduction, um, we at Guru are hosting coffee chats with entrepreneurs from all over the world, different industries. In this occasion, we have Santiago, and he's going to talk to us about this new endeavor, social cue. And so why don't we start maybe, Santiago, with a kind of brief introduction about yourself and what you've been working on these last couple of months in social cue.
Sure. So Social Q is born with the vision of applying natural language processing models to organic social media growth. Um, After an understanding of the current social network platforms, I've decided to settle on Twitter because Twitter provides the most organic algorithm and also the most complete data. Um, Natural language processing is the modelization of words in mathematical vectors.
And do you have, so right now, at what stage of development are you in? An MVP?
Indeed, there is an MVP that at this moment, the MVP fulfills the mission of delivering the right message to your target audience, which is the basis of organic growth. Um, we are in the process of, after delivering the MVP, after releasing it, we are in the process of mapping out our sales and marketing pipeline to understand who are the customers that we can provide the most value. As a third step, some of the features will be enhanced by using NLP, which at the moment we are not uh, f- fully engineered.
So what's the like the end product going to be like? So I'm going to go into social queue. Um, I guess it's going to be like a SaaS software in the cloud, right? Um, and what am I going to be able to do inside social queue?
I see that social Q serves both individuals and an enterprise.
Mhm.
In the case of individuals, it's very clear the mission that we have. So we believe that personal branding is key for the success of a professionist. In this case, social Q will be like your virtual gym, like your personal branding gym, where each day you'll be able to spend 30, 40 minutes in your social media platform of your choice and really grow as a professionist. Really grow, expand your brand, expand your influence, position yourself as a thought leader in your industry. Uh, i- i- that is the role that for individual social Q will fulfill. In terms of enterprise, I have the vision of doing it as a war room. I imagine different di- directors from the organization reuniting across the dashboard and trying to understand and trying to map the company communication based on the data that we provide. And this is why NLP is such a key feature in our roadmap. Natural language processing, among other capabilities, allows you to classify content by topics and by sentiment. In this case, I found that one of the key drivers of organic growth is the ability to stay consistent in your message. And before that, before NLP, we had no real way of mapping, visualizing, or monitoring that consistency in the message. And that is what I believe is the 10 times improvement factor that social cue will provide.
I've been following you, Santiago, for a while on Twitter, and I've seen, the tweets that you put out for social cue. Are any of those tweets actually done through NLP or any type of GTP solution?
Um, they rely on the MVP. Let's be clear that they rely on the MVP. They are driven by the data that the MVP to a certain extent. I would say 50-50. The composer, did you hear about the composer?
I think that's the part where it got.
Got caught.
Okay, so how the composer works is a text editor that highlights parts of speech, parts of sentences or words in three different colors: green, yellow, or red. Red indicating you need to change this. This will drop your engagement. Yellow is this is an area of opportunity. You can actually improve the text. And green is like that's sweet. Keep it on.
Santiago, one question, same for the context. Uh, I look at I really like your blog late last year talking about don't build a startup, grow an audience.
Yeah.
And my question for you is, how do you find information about your potential clients?
Great question, Alfredo. And this is the key insight that I would like to provide a solution for. It's really difficult. I like one phrase of Seth Godin, and where he explains is that you cannot always trust your audience for the kind of message you will deliver. So since I use Twitter a lot, I tweet about 6-8 times a day. So I really had a feeling, a feedback, a very short feedback of what works good for my audience and what doesn't. But there's also the part of where do I want to go, uh, which is uh, which is my vision. And the second part that is even more interesting to me is how to deliver the message, because I find that in the 3 months being an entrepreneur, my voice has when I tweet with more confidence, I get more engagement, which came as surprising to me.
That's great. Um, Santiago, so we usually try to mix our conversation between what we're working on, in terms of your startup, and also kind of the business mindset behind the work that that you're doing. Um, Tell us a little bit how are you structured right now in social queue? How are you kind of splitting up the work?
As an entrepreneur, I need to do everything at the moment. I'm very fortunate to have help. So I've been helping the part of marketing and research, and especially in the local market. Social Q has its core values. Um, the top of one is transparency, but a very important one is also loyalty. And for me, it's a conflict of interest because all my professional career has been in North America and a small part in Europe. And in this case, I feel that, and before starting Social Q, I was actually going away from Mexico. So I feel that I'm not giving back anything to my country. Like I'm getting all these benefits from North America, from Europe, all this knowledge,
Mhm.
and for me, it would be very easy to step away from Mexico. Now, in this case, Paola, she's developing the local market, and we are finding a lot of struggles in the ways of how underdeveloped, unfortunately, the landscape of information and knowledge is. So that's one area that I'm getting a lot of help. Fortunate, I'm fortunate also enough to have already some recurring customers in Mexico. And the key area for social Q, as every startup, is North America. As most startups, is North America, especially in our time zone. And this is where I usually divide my day. I usually try to do marketing and sales at the beginning of the day,
Mhm.
um, and and emphasize it at the beginning of the week. And as the week progresses, I shift towards product development. That's also a part where I get a lot of help from Paola, because eh, one of the issues that my first products got was that it was not inclusive. The product was built for engineers, and particularly for engineers who had a very data intensive background. And by including yes, Paola, and also now, fortunately, some early adopters, some users, I've been fortunate enough to have a more inclusive product.
Interesting, interesting. So you mentioned that you like to start with sales and marketing in the morning. Is is that because you're like you need more imagination and you're more rested in the morning versus in the afternoon you try to do stuff that is more mechanical?
No, actually, the sales and marketing part is more mechanical. But that's not the reason why I do it that way. It's because how engagement works. I found that I get a better response if I contact person during the morning, during my morning, than during the afternoon or during the night, when I'm usually doing product development.
Alfredo, do you have a question?
Yeah. About your style,
Mhm.
are you hyper focused on every single step of the process, or you are open to try new things and see whatever the path takes you?
Yes, I am excruciatingly obsessive with details. Just this last Sunday, I mean, it was Sunday, and it was really late at night, and I was working on the landing site, and
Okay.
and there was this. So the landing site, the top bar, the menu is divided in three segments: the brand, let's say the action items, and the call to actions. And in this case, I spent like 4 or 5 hours, because the middle items were not aligned. And even if I could align it at the center, since the call to actions had more width than the brand, it just looked uneven. And it was 5 hours until I could actually, by trying, by looking, by I'm also a huge believer of thinking and observing. And by observing, I was for and by chance, I have to say that, and by luck, I was fortunate enough to find the right combination um, for for the items which seem minimal, but for me is important.
I think it's very important. I agree. It's important to be very driven and detail oriented, but sometimes luck plays a factor, and it's
Yep.
good. It's a good practice to be humble and recognize that.
One area that we tend to talk a lot about is resilience.
Yeah.
Resilience in entrepreneurship is extremely important because we are facing setbacks or barriers every day. Um, could you tell us a kind of a story that you've gone through that you've experienced a setback and kind of how did you went around it and if you have like a mental framework around like the resilience and how you view it.
I have to credit my father in that one. First, he was an incredibly resilient person, but particularly when running. Uh, Ever since I was a kid, I watched him engage in these marathonic races, and from time to time I run with him, of course, with him with a slower pace. But I always got into this mindset of ignoring pain. And as I grew, as I matured, as I grew older, my father stepped back from marathons and started going into these ultra races, which are 60 plus kilometers, 40 plus
Right.
miles,
Yep.
even a couple of 100 ones. So it was a huge inspiration in the sense that there is nothing the mind cannot achieve um, against both nature and the body. And just to complement that, uh, my sister, uh, she took the sport as a runner, and that's the part that I was really impressed, because as kids, she, she didn't enjoy running, and just so seeing her grew like from into a top runner, that demonstrated me that it's possible to um, discipline or maybe to train the mind to achieve what you propose to.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, I have a similar experience with running, and um, it's definitely running a marathon is a lot. A high percentage is just kind of your mental game around how you get to the finish line, and ignoring all of these pains that you're feeling all over the course of the race. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Um, Another area that we like to touch, you talked a little bit about your co-founder, um, but and you talked how kind of you complement each other and work on different aspects of the business. Um, Outside of your co-founder, do you have like a group of, for example, mentors that you talk to in certain frequency to get like feedback or bounce back ideas?
Absolutely. Um, I knew I was going to be an entrepreneur at some point. Since 5, 10, 15 years, I always knew that this is the path that I wanted to take. And in this case, uh, I think there's a lot in cultivating personal relationships, that when you decide to take this big step, you are ready, and also the people around you are ready. Uh, and what I don't want to credit anyone in particular, mainly because fortunate enough to have a lot. Um, when you set your goal 5 to 10 years in advance, there's a lot you understand, and you talk, Alfredo, about the article. Don't build a startup, grow an audience. Um, there's the second chapter talks about the key takeaways as during my career as a software engineer in startups, and I can see since from then my early experiences were um, already permeated by the filter that I was going to be an entrepreneur later. And the second part is being an entrepreneur 24/7 gets you connected with a lot great similar minded people, as in the case as you guys, for example.
That's great. Um, and clearly, you have found a way through your running or through that expertise, how you endure and be resilient. With the pandemic hitting us last year or the past year, if you will, and being a entrepreneur, building a new company, how you find yourself motivated, Santiago?
Mm, I was working remotely long before the pandemic hit. So for me, it kind of felt better because In Mexico, in my country, I was misunderstood. Like, how do you manage to work remotely? People didn't got it. And when most of the country shifted to working remotely, I felt like um, I feel like more belongingness. And the second part for me and most of the tech workers would say that pandemic has been a huge growth factor. I was prepared. To be honest, this is the parts of I knew that an economic recession was approaching because I was seeing how much growth and kind of waste was into a lot of economic areas. I understood that these strong markets couldn't stood forever, and I was had the sufficient insight to realize that the best company that the best time to start a company is during economic downturn. Yeah, so pandemic is a good place for to start a company and citing the Chinese crisis is opportunity plus danger. So I'm really embracing the pandemic as an entrepreneur.
So do you, right now, of course, we're going through the pandemic and remote working is certainly probably one of the only ways to work safe right now. But do you envision yourself and your team working remotely going forward, regardless of the pandemic, or um, would you like to build more of a team, physical team environment?
No, yeah, I'm absolutely remote first kind of guy, and I even prefer like I don't know the right term for this, but it's open
Mhm.
schedule. So when basically, the time of synchronicity between the team is just about 2, maybe 3 hours, but the rest, everyone manages its own agenda. Uh, uh, I had some short experiences working in offices, and while it's great, while you meet a lot of great people, like just the routine, it's like unbearable for me. So I could never, my own company, I could never be um, on a physical place.
Mhm.
Plus, I love traveling. One of the big reasons that I want to get into entrepreneurship is to have the liberty to explore and work from wherever I want.
The nomad lifestyle,
Yeah,
working from a beach in Thailand.
why not?
You don't have to go that far. Mexico has very nice beaches in both oceans. But
Indeed.
yeah, but it's funny because we are broadcasting from three different cities right now. Santiago, three different countries actually, even cities. Santiago is in Mexico, Arturo is in Peru, and I'm here in the United States. So technology allows us, but hopefully very soon we'll get together in person, have a coffee or a beer. We'll see.
A coffee is better.
I like to ask this question a lot, Santiago, in the personal space. Do you have any preferred book or movie or that you could recommend?
Movies might be tough. Yesterday, as I was watching the Fifth Wave, uh, a movie about some aliens coming into Earth. For me, it lasted about 10-15 minutes. I fell asleep.
Okay.
So I'm not a big movie guy. I'm just um, books. I do read a lot. The most recent book I mean um, I read is it was daily life during the Black Death. So this was in preparation for my next story that will
Okay.
try to understand how humans react to pandemics, trying to predict some of the changes that will come after COVID. Let's say it's been downgraded. And I'm a person that likes to do analogies, that likes to bring understanding from one realm to another, and by creating these kind of connections, find novel and creative things to work on. So I usually try to find books about science, history, sometimes about technology, but mainly outside of my immediate area of expertise.
Got it. Thanks a lot.
So my last question, Santiago. So, um, there is this, I don't know, trend or part of, I don't know if it's trend or part of mindset where, you are either an entrepreneur that, is developing like a single big solution for a particular pain point, or you're more maybe driven towards developing different solutions for different problems, like building your portfolio. Um, and that, it can change over time, because life just sometimes puts you in front of opportunities that you have not maybe thought of before. But just conceptually speaking, do you see social cue being like one your like most important effort, or do you foresee maybe developing a suite of solutions? Maybe social cue is for like Twitter, and then you do like a different brand for Facebook, and how do you visualize that part of building a business?
Today, it's my only bet, social Q. I'm 100% committed to it. I'm very fortunate enough to have been receiving positive feedback. And I'm also a person that's really passionate and really dedicated. While I was working as a software engineer, I tried to have side projects,
Mhm.
but my own character, my own sense of my own identity, my own sense of beliefs is a guy that can only focus on one thing. So in that regard, I know that me personally, that framework of multiple bets uh, does not work. Um, Having said that, I am prepared if in 3, 6 months social Q is not at the place where I would like it to be. I would be preparing, I would be making some small experiments in order to prepare the pivoting. But for now and the next months, 100% committed to it.
Thanks, Santiago. Really appreciate your time and your insights, and we'll definitely be talking a little more, and hopefully our followers on Twitter will know a little bit more about things that we might be discussing. So,
Love it, love it.
okay.
I was not prepared for Twitter, so uh, it will be great. I usually go semi-incognito in Twitter, and 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 it's nice because I'm starting to develop people that I care about in Twitter,
Uh-huh.
like friends, and it's funny how something that is very digital starts permeating to the personal life. So it will be fun. Love to see the feedback on that one.
Great, great.
Perfectly.
Okay, Santiago, take
Thanks a lot.
care. Have
Good
a
luck.
Goodbye, Alfredo. Goodbye, Arturo.
bye-bye.
Love it, love it.
Okay.
I was not prepared for Twitter, so it will be great. I usually go semi-incognito in Twitter, and 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 it's nice because I'm starting to develop people that I care about in Twitter,
Uh-huh.
like friends, and it's funny how something that is very digital starts permeating to the personal life. So it will be fun. Love to see the feedback on that one.
Great, great. Okay, Santiago, Take care,
Good
Alvaro.
luck.
Problem of people.
Goodbye, Alfredo. Goodbye, Arturo.